that's often not discussed at all, which is design and communications in financial modeling. And it's one of the key things. So let's begin then. All of these things, starting with font colors and background, there are several systems for annotating and communicating in Excel. Here's the first one, color coding. Now, it may well be, because as far as I know, you're all from a corporate background, that you've seen this and you're actually working with this, which means that on your files, it may be that every cell that's blue is telling you that this is a hard-coded input. So you just typed a number in. For example, in an input section, you might find all of your input section is entirely blue color. On the other hand, if you've got a formula, such as this trivial little thing here, or a much longer function in a cell, it should be color-coded black. If you're following the system I'm highlighting here. If you've got a link from one worksheet to another one, that means you should have that as green. And then red if it's a link to another file, and dark red if it's a link to another data provider. I work with accountants, HR people, marketing people, production people, and all sorts of people all of the time. And it's really surprising how many people don't know and don't use pivot tables. And I'm including accountants and accounting people, bookkeepers, in that list of people who don't use pivot tables. So I've put it here right near the beginning of this financial modeling course to help you understand this is where you need to be. So they're an absolute must, they are, and they make the initial or full analysis really very easy in many situations, not all of them. Sometimes they don't work. And cross tabulations can be driven by formulas, and they actually, you can use pivot tables to create them. But just to make this a bit more interesting, I'm going to use cross tabulations by formula to start with, and then we'll move on to pivot tables to see two things. Number one, what I mean by cross tabulation, what they are and how they work. And secondly, how pivot tables take all that trouble away by doing them for you. This is a cross tabulation. I'll show the data in a second, but here we have some sales information. So we've got 5 salespeople, and they're selling hardware and software. And this is all of the hardware for a given period that Able has sold, and that's all the software. So summary table then, this is a cross tabulation. It's a summary of a long list of data. So salesperson, hardware, software, or type, person, maybe city, region, date, all these sorts of things. And it comes down to that 3-column table you see there. These are the right names for this file inside the file. So I want to know how much hardware in value Baker has sold. If you go there, if you click on the name box, can you see this list? The answer should be yes. They are range names. Let me click on one to tell you what they mean. Good. If you've never used range names before, what they mean is, let's click on county. What that does, it immediately highlights everything in the column headed county, everything, and that's a range name. And rather than remember D4 to D53, you use that name in any functional formula as you're about to see. And I've got range names for the person, there we are, column B. I've got range names for the type, column F, and all of them. So let's begin. Practice use an Excel table. Second thing, give it a name. Finance, mathematics, statistics, all these things, you need them. So what we're going to do now then is go back to here and create that, and then that, and then this, in a very easy way. All I have to do, I want the name, the person, there, it goes to the rows already. I want the amount, it goes to the values area, I'm already there. And finally, I want the sales type. Now watch this carefully. If I just click on that, it goes to the row area. Well, you might be happy with that, but that's not what I wanted. Nothing wrong with it, but I want it to be there. And that's my crosshair. Done. This just confirmation. And again. So here we are, exactly what I've just done. I mentioned these really hard coding input sections. I mentioned those right at the beginning, but this is interesting. This is a true story. I like to tell this story because it's true. But early on this year, a man who's a chartered accountant from England, he shared one of his files with several of us, and he's an expert on football finance, English Premier League, English Championship, the finance of English football. And so he shared his file, and I found this formula on one of his tabs. And I thought, well, that's just ridiculous. Who would ever think that that is a rational thing to prepare? A sum function with all of that. So I did this for him. I said, by the way, rather than do that, why not do this? Learn sum if s, which you've just done. So otherwise, you might have to do this. And he said, well, thank you, it's a hobby. I understand that. So he does it in his spare time. But thanks for the tip, because he's working on a project at the moment where this suggestion of sum ifs will save him a lot of time.